What are you doing, Daddy?
Trying to take over the world, Tyler. Welcome to the Awesome Black Dad Show, your number one podcast for and about black dads. I'm your host, creator Terrell Lindsay, and I created this show with the hope that I can encourage, empower, educate, and in the process, entertain fathers in a way that inspires us to be a better version of ourselves.
This is a dangerous group. Groups that were
This is episode 9 of the Awesome Black Dad Show, and today we're doing things a little differently around here. We pulled together a small panel of dads to answer questions both from social media and inside the room as well. Now, when I decided to do this, I thought it'd be a great idea. But when we all got in the same room together, I figured out how wrong I was. It turned out to be something much, much greater. So much so that I had to break this panel up into 2 different episodes. You can expect to hear very candid and honest responses and dialogue to some meaningful questions surrounding fatherhood, manhood, masculinity, acceptance, and so much more. So if you're sitting in rush hour traffic on your way to or from work, lean your seat back a little bit more like your uncle would smoking a Newport 100, turn your volume up a notch and allow us to enjoy the ride with you. Welcome to the Awesome Black Dad Show. Thank you guys for showing up. We got Jarrell, Byron, and Irvin in the building. We got our first panel going on. So basically how this is going to work is we received some questions from online, and we're going to answer those questions as it relates to fatherhood and manhood and give your best and only authentic perspective on those things. And, we're going to get it going. So I'll start it off. Let me mix the pot up, see what we got going.
Hurry up before Keisha get home. We need a...
Okay, so we're going to start this over.
Another thing, we need like a camera. Like, this face is made for TV. You know what I'm saying?
This face is made for the tissue.
Right.
It's a tissue type face. I ain't no radio guy.
Yeah.
Where's the camera?
So
Get way more hits you see.
yeah, we're going to get the cameras in the next time. I was going to do it, but I ain't had the time. We get the cameras in the next time for sure. So the first question comes from off social, and it's, what do you want to make sure you do as a father that your father didn't do? And if you want to jump in, go right ahead. First come, first serve.
I know what mine is. It's time. You know what I'm saying? It's time. You know what I mean? Like, I come from I guess a peculiar type situation. I was under guardianship. Our real dad, biological dad, what do you want to call him? He didn't spend any time with me. Like, I remember playing like catch out in the yard with my older brother and see my dad walk past, go kick it with his friends. Like, seriously. Like,
Catch
like,
the ball, boy.
like, yeah, exactly. Didn't even see that. And like, I stopped, like, I think that's my daddy. And then my brother would be like, yeah, that's your daddy. You know what I mean? And then, shout out to my, my dad that, what I call my real dad, who adopted me, who took up the guardianship. My brother and sister is like 19, 20 years older than me. So he had raised his kids. There wasn't no ball thrown around. He was tired. You know what I'm saying? He was, you know what I'm saying? Like, when I got there, he was 40-something years old. So, right. So, he kept the lights on. He kept food on the table. You know what I mean? He taught me mechanical things because that's what he liked to do. You know what I mean? If you want to crawl under the car with him, you know what I'm saying? You learn something. You don't learn nothing. You know what I mean? So if I could just spend time with him, you know what I'm saying? I guess that's the biggest gift I think I can give him. That's what I want to do differently than what I feel like. Yeah, exactly.
I think I agree with the time. Then there's also like a part of me always wants my kids to do stuff I didn't do. So it's like you can look at your imperfections and say, I don't want my kid to be like that. So it's like, say like you don't like, say like growing up, you remember yourself being in school or whatever, you don't like public speaking. You want your kid to be able to speak in public. Because you're like, I don't like that shit. Like, man, I hated that growing up. So it's like, I look at my kid and you be like, man, I'll push him to do that. So it's like, it's all those little nuances the older I get you can kind of reflect on and be like, man, I don't like that about me. So that's the part that I always try to get them to do that I didn't do. So it's like whatever I didn't do, I try to push that on them.
So it's not a function of what your father didn't do. It's something that you didn't get.
You know what? Because I think, bro, at our age, I'm 37, bro. So you think back to what your dad didn't do, you be like, you understand it though.
Right.
So you can understand your older father.
Right.
Like, man, you understand. So I understand why my dad wasn't there either. My dad be like, hey, you want to go to Disney World or you want me to play catch? I was going to Disney World. I was taking trips. So my dad like, shit, you can't have it both ways. Right. So, hey, real talk though.
That's real.
But at the time, you be like my dad, I don't remember my dad coming to my, where did we go? Senior night. My dad wasn't at senior night.
He was working.
My dad was working. He like, man, good job. But when the summer came and it was time to drive, there was never a discussion. Like, man, it was a car there. There was a house. You know what I mean? You want to ram in the backyard? Got you. But it was like, but you get older, you be like, man, I understand him better. As a man, as a father, you understand him. But it's like
that balance is
like,
that balance is hard.
Oh,
Trying to. I mean, you can find yourself in a real trick bag.
Yes.
Trying to do it all.
Yep.
I mean, because you can't.
Yeah.
You could do a lot of it, but like, for what you want to do for your child, the kind of work you got to put in to do that, and be out there, you know what I mean, at every single thing, you know what I mean, and it make you feel guilty, but at the same time, I mean, like you said, like when you get older, you understand.
Man,
you know what I mean?
I got fired from a job to some basketball, but I had did everything by the book. I got fired bogusly, but the point is to try to make up for that time. So you got to choose work or time, and I did both. I did my job. I came in like 4 hours early than I should have. Got all my work done so I can be able to leave early, which was signed off by the boss above, fired me. But the boss, they was on vacation or whatever, and all this happened. But my point is, I literally got fired for choosing.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? That's the trick bag you're talking about. It's like, all right, do I not get paid? And I know I'm taking care of the family. I know exactly what I'm doing. I know where this money is going to go and where it's needed. Or do I want to see the look on my child's face like, hey, you was going to be here? Because a lot of times they know we're not going to show up.
Yeah,
They know we work.
he busy.
You know what I mean?
He busy. And
So,
I think
so
the balance is real.
Yeah, I think about that with my dad a lot. You be like, man, like when you think back to all the stuff you had, like man,
You even look at the pictures.
I was thinking about when me and my sister was in school at the same time. I said my dad had 2 college kids in school, both with cars, both paying tuition.
Yeah.
So I probably didn't see him, but I did. When you get older, you like, man, I get it, bro. I can still look at him and be like, man, I'm appreciative.
Yeah.
Right.
But at the same time, when I have my kids, like I don't want to work that much.
Right.
Yeah.
And that doesn't make him.
But you
that
know,
don't make him a bad dad either. Though.
But you know what? We have options. I mean, like it's all about stacking generations on top of generations. Like you know what I'm saying. It's all about furthering that next generation. My dad had to work a lot harder than I have to work to get a few dollars. You know what I mean? Like my dad worked. He was a manual guy. You know, he worked at GTE for a long time. Then he worked in at Sam's Club, you know, in the tire shop for a long time. You know what I mean? Like, so it's you have. You mean like you don't? I mean, it's a certain you gonna cap out there. You know, you're not gonna make $1 million
Plus,
there.
they was raised with a different mentality.
Exactly, exactly.
You know what I mean?
A
So
different
that plays
time,
a big role.
huge role. So now, and the goal was to get me to college. So like you don't really understand how real that is at the time when you in it. But the goal really is to get you to college. So you get the job.
Yeah.
So
That's better than mine.
right, just right. And think about this, like you guys. I mean, I don't know. I know it's like I was a guardianship that my mother decided to do. He can't, you know how they go. You know, say she brought a baby home. Like we got another baby. You know what I mean? And he like I'm 40. He's like, all right, you 40 with another baby. You know what I'm saying? Like, so, you know what I mean? And for him to, you know, he didn't buck. You know what I'm saying? Not that I'm aware of. You know what I'm
walked
saying?
out the door
Whatever
that-
they
Yeah,
did
that night.
You know what I'm
That
saying?
night,
Somebody
you
stepped
got
over
mad
the
when you
rock.
got that news.
Right. So my mother was my mother and father was your grandmother. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
they went in the room, took care of their thing. It wasn't no fighting in front of you. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
So,
right.
but at the end of the day, I may have wanted a lot of things, which kids do.
Mhm.
I wanted a lot of stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just like any other kid.
Right.
But I mean, as God is my witness, I can see and tell y'all, I didn't need for anything.
Yeah.
I didn't need for anything. Now, listen,
I just told my
she
kids.
was at the games. She was, she was at the concession stand. She was
Yeah.
there. She was traveling the games. Y'all just see my daddy the senior night. You know what I'm
Still ain't
saying?
seen my daddy.
And
You
here's
ain't
the
seen
thing.
my daddy. You wouldn't know my daddy if he walked in
Hey,
here
right,
right
you know what I'm
now.
saying? Y'all just see that.
Yeah.
It's like, and y'all heard the name Big J. He walked in at a smooth 5'6".
Yeah.
You
I know,
what I'm saying? Smooth, like a hot 5. You know what I'm saying? With the good shoes on.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So you know what I mean? Like it was confusing. Just roll with it. You know what I mean?
So let me ask you guys this though. So just so we don't, because we can definitely go on and on about this particular conversation, or question. So where do you draw the line? We talk a lot about, because it is all about balance, right? And then all of that balance that we're talking about is like we're operating in a vacuum. That's us thinking about what we want to do for our kids, not necessarily what our needs are, what our kids' needs are. So where do you think that you balance that? Do you look at your kid and feel like my kid needs to see me more because they're a little bit more needy at this point? So I can't take this promotion on this job because I need to do this, right? So do you strike that balance, or do you let life kind of strike it for you?
I think it's both, man. Like you could get caught up in the whirlwind of trying to provide, but at some point in your life, you gotta be realistic in this. That's part of the biggest issue of being a father. Like, man, I can't be everything to all things.
Right.
It's just
everybody,
impossible.
yeah.
So at some point, you reach the age I'm gonna do what I can do when I can do it.
Right.
And you got to be able to be okay with yourself as a person, as a man, as a father, and say that and be okay with that.
Yeah.
So I do what I do. So when my son is 25 and he's having this conversation, I can look him in his eyes. I did what I was supposed to do.
Yeah.
Like, you can't tell me I wasn't there. You can't tell me I ain't provide.
Right.
You can't tell. There is no
Right.
boxes on here you can't check.
Right. But but what do you say? What do you say when at 25 he's having that conversation with you and he says, "Dad, I really just needed you to be around." Right.
I'll apologize.
And
I
tell
can-
them
I
why.
can-
But,
Yeah,
but,
and I
but,
can tell 'em.
but at the
Like,
same,
"Damn,
but
I'm
at the
sorry."
same time, like in his story, you tell him about Disneyland. You know,
Yeah,
you're like,
like,
you know what I
well,
mean?
If
Like,
I was there, we'd have been in the backyard throwing
Yeah,
Exactly.
I tell
You
him-
remember the ride? You remember that? You remember throwing your hands up? You know what I mean?
And
You remember-
honestly, sometimes, man, like my kids are older, so like if I could speak, I got 2 teenagers right now. So yeah. So what I can do is, or what I did, sometimes sit down and talk to them. Like, listen, I know you want me to be there, but I have to be over here. But if there comes a time where the line gets drawn to where I need to do this work wise, or else you won't have
Yeah.
this.
I mean,
Yeah,
you know what?
so-
You know what? That's real good advice because my kid is younger than all y'all. You know what I mean, like
we're about the same age.
Yeah,
Well,
same.
my oldest is
yeah,
about
but
the same
just
age.
like
Yeah,
you know,
with
so that's real good advice for me because it's tough.
Yeah, just talk to them.
But remember we were coming up. It was
wasn't
especially
no talk.
Hey,
Ain't
wasn't no
no
talk. You got to figure that out on your own.
wasn't discussion.
You know what I mean?
Wasn't no talk.
So and here's the thing. And here's the like the balancing act. At the end of the day, you feel like you all right. You feel like you did good. Like you broke through. You did your thing. So it's like, at the back of my mind, I know it's like, I don't want to pamper him too much. I want him to be, you know what I'm saying,
Stand
being to
on,
figure
right.
his way out. You know what I
Yes.
mean? But at the same time, like, it was stuff I wanted to do that I wanted to do with him. So like that literally is the balance. That's
Because we're not
the pendulum. You know
we're
what I
not
mean?
working 24/7.
No.
So there is right now in this day and age, there is time where we can actually carve out and do things with
Correct.
the kids.
Quality,
Instead of
right.
just-
Yeah, quality
If you don't
thing,
work
yeah.
on the weekends, don't sit your butt around all day waiting for the next Monday to
Right.
start back up. You know
But
what I mean?
but that was the goal though.
Right, that's
That
what
was the
I'm
goal for your
Yeah, I'm
parents.
sitting down
That
here.
was the goal.
I'm resting. Let him alone.
Right.
Your dad is upstairs resting.
I don't need 2 days of rest.
That
You know
was,
what I mean?
but that was the goal
Who
for
are
your
you,
parents.
G?
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So my dad was working 16-hour shifts, you know what I'm saying,
But you know-
sometimes just, you know what I'm saying, so I could stay at private school.
But a
or-
big part of that is
Yeah,
that was that manual labor.
That's what I'm
I
saying.
don't think nobody at this table do it, man.
But that's what I'm saying. But so that lets you know right there
Yeah.
that your dad was a success and the plan actually worked.
Yeah.
You know
And
what I
I
mean?
think,
Yeah, for that
I
time.
think if we can honestly, at the end of the day, if we're gonna just wrap this part of it up,
Yeah.
if we can look each other ourselves right in the eye in the mirror and say we did our best,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Because the kids probably not gonna understand, and when that conversation comes, like you wasn't there for me, blah blah blah. You understand where they're coming from, and you explain your side, and then whatever happens after that happens. Just do your best.
Yeah.
You know what? Speaking on that, I guess this is like another answer to that question. One of the best things I could do as a father is to provide that openness.
Yeah.
Because I think growing up we didn't have it.
Right.
So
You
for
couldn't
us
come
to be
to
able,
your-
I wasn't
the
going in there
whole
asking them, bro, you missed senior night. Bro,
You'll miss your ass.
That's your problem.
I scored 25 tonight. You didn't see none of it.
I'm sure daddy was there.
bro.
We ain't seen Big J in 4 years.
But
He's
the funny
showing where
part
you
about
at.
that is, bro, you know how you know what's funny about that? Before you got to him, your mama was checking you.
Right.
Like, you better not run up on
Don't
that man.
no, let him go.
I
Let him
can't
alone.
control Big J.
Let him alone.
If
Exactly.
you get in there and you ask him that shit.
I'm
So
telling
it's like,
you.
bro, you
It
had to
was-
be able to
it
do,
was-
like,
it was
that
different, man.
openness
Yeah,
is
it was
that-
different, man.
That's
It was-
one of those things where I love when my son can tell me stuff.
Yeah.
Like my son's 12 now, so it'd be like, I'd be like, bro, why you didn't do that? And like he'll
say-
smile, but the funny thing is he'll talk when his mom ain't there. So I'd be like, bro, so she go up to say, like, bro, why you didn't do that? He like, man, I was nervous. I like, that's fine. Ooh, you looking at like, bro, we all nervous. Everybody get nervous.
Yeah.
I'm not mad at you about that.
Yeah,
So it's
no,
like that openness. So it's like time, openness, and that's those two pieces. Like I love being able to talk to my kid. I love those car rides from the gym.
That's what's up.
I love that shit.
No,
You
and
can
that
talk
that,
to 'em,
that at
it's
the
like,
end of the day winds up being the thing that they hold on the most,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So it's not.
man,
So it's
I
not.
love that.
And to be honest, and then we'll move on to the next question. To be honest, I think that it's not about. It's really not about Disney World, right? It's really about those moments when you're there when they need you. And so I say, like, being around to see my kids grow up in moments where it's like something is happening, whether it's like it happened while I was at work, but I did come home, right? And somebody can tell me what happened, and then I can sit down and have that conversation. That turns out to be the moments that stick with the kids the most. Because when I look back to when I didn't have a father, it's like the times that I really wanted him to be there. It wasn't that I wanted him to go buy me some Jordans, or take me to Disney World. I wanted him to be there when I had to when I couldn't have a conversation with my mama, and I needed to have a conversation with somebody that looked like me.
Right.
Everybody was
Yeah.
balls. Like,
Hey, look, man, that's what I'm going
Man,
through.
Joe.
But so I've opened up the second question, which is another question from social media. From social media, and it's a nice segue. How can a man reach a mental space where he's content with not having a relationship with his child or children?
I can't.
So
say that again.
I can't explain that.
right. So how does a man get to a place where he's okay with not seeing his children?
What
right.
kind of man?
Why would you get to
I don't,
the
I don't, think- I don't, I don't, I
That's
don't,
the question.
I don't think
Right.
I don't think a man at this particular table
Little-
can answer that
If you
question.
care
lady-
about your kids,
The lady wrote that?
But I'm gonna tell you. I will say this. I
think a lady
You
wrote
know,
that.
I had a conversation. You know what I mean, with my biological dad. You know what I mean, and you know, it was one of those things like he had been. You can't pay for that, bro.
This table old.
It was.
I could get another.
We're not gonna let this turn into drink champ.
So it's one of them things where I'm gonna tell you what he told me. You know what I mean, and I'm gonna tell you what also I've heard from other people who also had this particular conversation with their parent, with the parent, their estranged father or whoever. I feel like it's always those type of people for me. You know what I mean? And if somebody can reach out to me or whatever, and disagree, whatever, but it's always somebody else's fault. It's always somebody else's fault. Well, he came to me and was like, your mom, which was my adopted mom, she didn't want me around and all that kind of stuff. Okay, like my dad had to duck through the door. He was 6'8". Okay, you know what I mean? Like the first time I saw my dad, I was 5 years old. He ducked through the door. They said, "That's your dad." I'm like, it can't be because it's a monster. He can't. You know what I'm saying? like you know what I'm saying? No real person that big. I'm looking at you. At the time, I didn't know what 5'6" was, but the scale, he was much bigger than them. And so you know what I mean? Like that. If you really want to be around your child, you do anything. Like I've spent thousands upon thousands of dollars to just be around my son. You know what I'm saying? And no, and I ain't even got the college education. I'm just right. You know what I'm saying?
The cost was a college education.
Right, exactly.
That's how much money.
Exactly. You spend thousands of dollars to fight. You know what I mean? In a situation like I don't have my son every day. You know what I mean? Like you have a child with someone who you're not with. It turns bad. Everybody know how that story turns out. And you spend thousands of dollars to spend that time with your kid. I'm talking about a dude that could just walk around the corner. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like we live 4 blocks away. Right. I probably seen my dad 10 times, my biological father. You know what I'm saying? So, I think it would be hard for me or Jarrell or Byron to explain what that feels like because we don't do that. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Like I don't want to. I don't even want to get in that guy lane. You know what I mean? I don't want to get in that guy lane. I want to try to explain that.
So right. So
you got to have a whole different dad show for that. You got that. You know what I mean? And here's the thing: if you do. Set up some chairs right here so we can be an audience. You know what I'm saying?
I would like to know the answer to that question.
Yeah, pass.
Knock on the table.
And you know what? At the end of the day, seriously, you can open up the next question. You can open up the next question.
Pass.
No, I think we ain't trying to disregard the question. We just don't know the answer.
Yeah, like
That's
you know what?
Well, I mean, I think so. There really isn't. It isn't necessarily an answer. I think the question is just trying to get into the psyche of what type of man.
We can't tell you that.
And I understand that the people at this table is not. They're not there, but we have like. In my situation, when I think about why my father might not have been there, there are a couple of reasons as to why.
But here's the thing.
I can't be
whatever
him,
you
though. I don't
say.
know.
His reasons are like.
But here's the thing. Whatever you say, whatever I say, whatever if Byron came up with something or Jarrell came up with something, it's all might.
Yeah.
Because
we don't know. That's not what we do.
I mean, it's those situations that make us go so hard for our kids.
It's a reason and a cause. It's a cause and effect and a reason for everything.
Right.
So when I think about that question, you thinking about it like, man, like I go back to that same person. You was asking that dude that, like, bro, you got to ask that guy, like, what are you willing to fight for? If you're not willing to fight for your kids, or what are you willing to fight for? Because at that point, the guy's not fighting for the time. He's not fighting to see his kid. So what are you willing to fight for?
I think it's an actual very dangerous mental space to be in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, once you get there, not only are you damaging your life, but you're damaging the child's life as well, because you don't even need to see him. Like, you get in the mental space where I don't need to see my kids no more. How?
It's just,
like,
but that's what I'm saying. Like, what I'm saying is, we neither one of us have never been in a situation where that's been the answer.
But you know,
so you can't think about Jay-Z had that song about how his dad went around, and he kind of understood where his dad was coming from. You know what I'm saying?
The older we are,
I didn't understand where my dad was coming from. You know what I mean?
We all down in 40. Well, it's probably some. Maybe a couple people in here 40 swear.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, I ain't gonna tell nobody business. I know me and you not.
Yeah, when you think back to that though,
I'm not even finna get into this.
I think back to a lot of that though, man.
I'll cut y'all mics off. I swear.
Our time frame. Nah, but when you think about our time frame, man, like that was a lot easier. If you think like this is a whole other conversation. When you think about how we started slavery and all of that, but you think about all our parents growing up in the 60s, 70s, man, drugs was prevalent. Man, our parents, shit. I don't know if you hear this, but I don't know if my dad remember the time. When you high, bro, them years flow.
Right.
He probably don't remember.
Right.
So it's like,
well, let's draw that distinction. Your biological father, and then
I got a biological and a stepfather.
Right. So, because I know you talked about how important your father was in the biggest.
I don't
you
call
your stepfather. Right.
Yeah, my stepfather's my father.
We're not talking about you, James.
Nah, not Jay Boogie.
You got Herb the glass.
The one who stole my true love. Hey, Miss Gwen.
What up, Jay Boogie?
Miss Gwen.
That's my ace.
Ignore that.
He fall on deaf ears.
They probably won't hear this anyway, but that's
he can't do what he do.
They gonna hear that part. I sure can't.
JD can't take care of that shit.
That wallet too fat for me. No, sir. He told me one time, he said, man, listen. He walked right up to me, he said, I'm short, right? I said, yeah. He said, if I stood on my wallet, I'm way taller than you. I was in high school. I said, I ain't got nothing else to say.
I'm straight.
Shut me all the way down.
That sound like him too. That's my man.
I stood
Joe.
on my wallet.
That's my
He probably
man.
was like, thank you for that. I'm gonna use that when I get older.
You can't say nothing. You can't say nothing to that.
Hey, Jarrell, and then if you'll excuse me, we don't know what
I
it
was
is.
I was a good trash talker. I was a good trash talker. I ain't had nothing else to
Yeah,
say.
you ain't got nothing else to say to that. That's
Shut me down.
that one line, that one hit a quitter.
That's my man. So yeah, when all my bad references,
Whatever that is.
I took my
Right.
biological. But we good.
I'll make sure I say bio dad.
Right. Yeah, just to be
We
clear.
ain't gonna
So
disrespect
we'll
Big J.
move on. We'll move on from that one. And go on to the next one. This looks like it's a question from in the room. We won't say any names, but how do you balance trying to cover what you feel you never had?
I think we already answered that with the first question.
That's a loaded question too, because from that standpoint, you got to be able to look at yourself in the mirror and be like, "What I didn't have." That's a hard question to really ask yourself.
What didn't you have that you actually needed?
I know that's what I'm
Versus
saying.
what
So
you
you got to be
want,
able to look
you
in the
know
mirror
what
and be like,
The
"Man, I
only-
was missing this. I was that." Like,
As far as for me, it was just a time.
yeah, like,
It was just a time. Like, you know what I mean? It would have been, all right, so, I didn't play basketball. Like, you know what I mean? Y'all know basketball is my first love. You know what I'm saying? We played together. You know what I mean? I didn't play until I got to high school. Like, the first time I played with a referee basically was like 8th grade when I met Garrett. You know what I'm saying? And I played over at Austin. Like, nobody knew who I was, or nobody, you know what I mean? Because I played on playgrounds, you know what I mean? Like, and so for me, a sticking point was the bio dad. Let's get him back in here. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Let's get him back in the conversation. So allegedly, he was a good ball player, a really good ball player. Like, 6'8", could shoot it, was, smooth. You know what I'm saying? I got tired of hearing about it. You know what I mean? Like, that's how good he was. He was a head case. That's why he didn't go to college. But apparently he could go. And so you hear about all this, and then all of a sudden, you bounce the ball. You like, this all right. I like this, you know what I mean? And a guy from the west side of Chicago, from Indianapolis by the way of the west side of Chicago, that's who taught me how to shoot a jump shot. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. That's who taught me how to dribble. That's who, you know what I mean? Y'all saw my first year, all I could do was shoot a hook shot. You know what I'm saying? That was it. You know what I'm saying?
I think you're being generous.
That's it.
This is so disrespectful. I didn't mean for this to go disrespectful like that, but let's keep it going.
Shots fired.
We used to talking trash.
Shots fired.
We can get the tapes. You know what I'm saying? We can get the tapes. You know what I'm saying? We can get the tapes. But you know what I'm saying? But like, you know what I mean? Like, on the serious note, like that's tough. You know what I mean? Like, the funniest thing, like, and I never shared this with any of y'all. You know what I'm saying? This is the funniest thing ever. This is how history just kind of like mess with you, My dad grew up, like, he went to high school, like, in the 70s, you know what I'm saying, and all that kind of stuff, you know what I mean? You know what his nickname was? Swervy Irv. You know what I'm saying? Swear to God. Swear to God.
So we start calling you Swerve.
And in high school, y'all called me Swerve.
Jason started that? Who started
Jason Ferguson.
Swerving.
And like at that point, I was kind of like coming in on my own to basketball, and I'm trying. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't finna try to fight it. You know what I'm saying? It is what it is. You look like him. Apparently, you play ball. Y'all do the same things. Like, it's not. It's. I got tired of fighting it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I got tired. At that point, I got tired of hating them. Mm-hmm. I got tired of hating them. You know what I mean? Like, at the end of the day, they keep telling you you're spitting the image of them. They telling them, like, every time that you say you play ball, they like, oh man, your dad was smooth. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm like, word. You know what I'm saying? Like, my daddy on the car right now.
On another note, man, I just want to say everything we're saying is evidence of God provides.
Right.
Whatever we felt like we didn't need, it came in a different form or package at a certain time. You know what I mean? Like, you didn't, your father could hoop. Your biological father could hoop.
Right.
He didn't teach you.
Right.
Then Garrett came.
Right.
And taught, you know what I mean? Like,
right, he dropped him right in when I needed him.
Like, everything that we thought was lacking, there was always somebody else. God was always sending.
Right.
So, I mean.
So, I'm going to stop you right there, and I'm just to say this. that was a rough time for me.
Yeah.
That was a rough time for me. It
Understand.
bothered me that, you know what I'm saying?
It's
that
supposed to.
Some strange
It's
man had
supposed
to
to.
teach it. Right, you know what I'm saying? So what I'm saying is, what do I want to give my son that I didn't have? I don't want him to ever feel that. I don't ever want him to feel that. Because I know what I was going through at that time. You know what I mean? And, going through high school is rough enough. You know what I'm saying? Right. And then you got your inner stuff going on. He going to have his issues. So my son going to have his issues. I just don't want him to feel that. I know I can block that one.
Right. Yeah.
I know I can block
so you
that
get you get in the way of the things that you already know, and that's the part of the growth. You don't want him to go through the stuff that you've been through. Right. And so the question the segue to that is, like, I think Byron and I a while ago were having a conversation. I think I might have asked him a question. Is it more important for a child to have his father in his life, or just a positive role model? So the segue from that is that, like, so Garrett stepped in a moment where you needed him, and it obviously stuck with you, right?
Correct.
And so you'll always be grateful for that, and it was a part of your growth and development. So is it more important for, I don't want to put the woman in this situation, but is it more important for that child to have their father, their biological father, in their lives to some degree, or understand why they're not, or to have a positive role model in those phases in their life?
But see, here's the thing. I don't want to get into what's more important than a father, or because that's a loaded question. It depends on what type of father.
Well, let's unload.
No, I mean you can have. I mean you talking about
let's
like,
pull the trigger on that.
About like drug addict fathers.
Well,
you know what I'm saying? What I'm saying is this. To go back to the first question. I know what my darkest moments was. You know what I mean? One of my darkest moments at that time was that, you know what I mean?
Right.
It's hard to be playing catch with an adopted family and see your dad walk past.
Well, I get it.
You know what I'm saying?
I get it.
Walk right by you and don't even acknowledge you at all to go kick it on the next block.
Right.
If I went to the corner a couple times, I saw him out there drinking and kicking, you know what I'm saying? Right. And it's your dad. You know what I mean? There's no, like, if he walked in, you'd be like, that's his dad. Right. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's hard. My thing is,
but when you look back though, you can.
No, but I feel like I turned out fine. Right. I feel like people came into my life at the right moments. But before those moments came, it was a whole lot of dark days that your mama just couldn't get you through. Yeah. Your daddy couldn't get you through. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I can't like I said, I can't do everything, but I can make sure that my son doesn't feel those specific dark days. And I know how bad it was for me.
Understood.
So I just don't want him to deal with that.
I think I'm one of the ones where, besides Byron and Irvin, I didn't have a biological father you know what I mean?
How you get here without a biological?
No, listen to me. I didn't have two. I didn't have two.
Yeah, we talking about Jesus.
Talking to Jesus. I didn't have two. God bless you. God bless you. God bless all of you. God bless all of y'all. Now, what I'm saying is, I had a father. To answer your question, I had a father who was in my life, so to speak, but wasn't really like, he taught me some things. I'm not gonna throw my father under the bus, but my grandfather was the positive role model. You see what I'm saying? So, to answer your question, is it more important? I think basically whoever is positive needs to be around in everybody's life. You know what I mean? Because it doesn't make sense having your biological father in your life if he's a negative influence. Right. You know what I mean? So if your biological father is positive and your stepdad is positive, you got two. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's not really a question of which one is more important. I mean, which one would you rather have? It's like positivity across the board.
You got to get it wherever you can. I mean? You got to get it wherever you can.
Whoever gonna bring it, let them.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. I think when we had that conversation, I thought that's what I don't recall, but I think that's what I was saying. It was just like.
No, we were having this at work, like during lunch. Yeah, during the lunch period at work.
Don't act like y'all don't drink at work.
Yeah. No,
I don't.
You're right. You just need somebody. But I'm gonna tell you what. If you there, you the path of least resistance.
Right.
I mean,
yeah.
You know you brought. It's your responsibility. I might as well take. I'm gonna take my responsibility.
Right.
Part of that's
and
like
make sure he don't have to deal with what I had to.
Part of that's a 2-thing question though, because it's like for us, we're black men. You needed someone. You had to have an example. Yeah. Good, bad, or indifferent. Because sometimes I feel like even if you had the bad example, I would hope
Still was
you
good.
get old enough, you had a dude there, so you say, I ain't gonna be like that.
Yeah, you can draw
To
something
have
from it.
nothing.
Now, that was
To
my
have
real
nothing.
father.
Yeah,
See,
it's
that,
like you have to.
I
Like,
looked at that and was
something
like,
should be
I'm
there.
gonna do everything the opposite. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, but he was there enough to give you.
and not like I was shunning him. It was like, all right, I don't want to do that.
Yeah, but I'm saying like to not have that figure there gives you like that duality that you're missing. You're missing
Yeah,
both.
yeah.
You don't know good, bad. You don't know
Right.
good, bad.
Nobody's there. You guessing?
Yeah, it's
right,
kinda
right,
like,
right,
It's
right.
like you playing shit. You playing man.
Yeah.
What they call like you playing, bro? You playing like catch and receive. It's like maybe they, maybe not. I don't know.
Should
So at least if you had the body there, you could be like, man, I can kind of bounce it off of that. Like I ain't gonna be like that,
Right.
or I'm gonna be like this. But
So
just
you
to
can
leave
find
it
you
to
can
a
find
woman,
you can find the positivity even in the
In the
negative,
But
right?
it's hard
At some
when you-
point,
it's
not
hard
early
to-
on, but it depends on who you are. I'm not
I
even
did.
saying
Right,
early
depending on who you are.
early
So
on,
that's why
depending on who you are.
that's why it's such
So
a
this
loaded
is a
question.
even in
Yeah.
that, that's a process. But to just be stuck there with the woman from a black male perspective,
Yeah, it
it's
takes.
hard.
It's really
So
it's
you
hard.
need you gotta have somebody there
Yeah.
who resembles you. In
That's
your
why.
makeup.
That's
know
why
what?
I've recently
You
had.
know
a
what? I don't even want to go down that road.
Well, no, but we getting ready to go down.
Like,
We gonna get to some more of these
real
questions.
talk, like,
Well,
you need
we
that-
getting ready.
we need to move on.
Go ahead.
We need to move on.
I'm just
No.
saying, bro.
I'm
Like,
about to pop.
bro, for you to wake up every day as a child, you 5, you 6, you 7, and all you doing is looking at her as a woman.
Right. So
That's a bad.
As
That's
a boy.
hard road for a boy to go down.
here's a question.
consistently
Here's a
looking
question
at
that I got into on Facebook about can a
See, hey, listen, man. Hey, you know what I've been through.
Yeah,
Do it if you want
I'm just
to.
saying.
Do it if you want.
It's all,
Do
it's
it
all
if you want
perspective.
to.
It's all
Do
opinions.
it if you want to. Exactly. I'm gonna do some push-ups, right?
So
Hey, Byron, we don't need you for this one.
What are your feelings?
And I'm out.
We don't need you for this one, Byron.
And I'm out.
Okay, so what are your perspectives on a woman being able to raise a man?
She can
She
try.
able. Look,
She can try.
no, she able. You know what I mean? But
I mean,
She could do her
I mean,
best.
we gonna sit up and talk about this all day. But let's flip it. If a man was raising a child by himself, it'll still be a void.
right.
So
Absolutely. I
anytime
agree with
there's
that.
one parent, there's always going to be a void.
Right.
Yes.
It's going to be a different void when there's a woman raising a man, or a man raising a woman,
it
or a
takes-
man raising a man.
it
by
takes-
himself.
by himself.
Or by
It
herself.
takes two. It takes two people.
You need that.
Yeah.
Hey, wait a minute. No. Wait. It takes two people to make a child.
Bro,
it takes
it
two
was-
people to make a child. So I don't know what makes a woman or a man.
Think they can do
I'm,
it.
I'm gonna put an emphasis on one, but whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Say what you gotta say, man.
Say what you gotta say, man.
I don't know what makes, especially a woman, think that they don't need the father. You know what I mean? You need the father to get him here.
I think a lot of
You
that,
know what I'm
man, a
saying?
lot of that's built into our culture. I can't
Society,
speak for white folks.
absolutely.
I can't speak for
Right.
Asians. I can't speak for that. But
It can be built in all it's wrong to. It's wrong.
But yeah, it is. But,
Right.
but in fairness to those women, a lot of that is because the men wasn't there. So all
So they
they,
did what they
know
had.
is what they saw before.
Hold on, Byron.
So
Wait a
it's
minute.
hard.
See,
I'm just-
I didn't want to do it.
Let's do it.
I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to do it.
I tell you what.
You know what I'm saying?
I'm here.
I was hoping that we didn't walk down the
No, look,
street.
bro,
I'm
Can I-
being
can I-
Because here's the
I'm
thing.
just
Here's the
being
thing.
realistic, bro.
No, I'm being realistic,
The vast
too.
majority of us have daddy issues because whether he was there or he wasn't there in some form.
Okay.
So the black family had that dynamic where the mother was the head of the family.
I get it.
It's broken. A lot of our families are broken.
I get it.
And that being broken, it's been systematic. For
Okay,
us
but
to
here's the
kinda
thing. Wait.
Go down this road where
So wait
the
a
woman
minute.
got to the point
So
where
what-
she didn't need it.
What we've been sitting
She
here.
felt she didn't need it. I don't agree with it.
What
but I
are
know
we
where
sitting
it
here
came
saying?
from.
What are we sitting here saying? The gist of this whole conversation has been we saw how we grew up and we wanted to make things better. You know what I'm saying? Is that not the gist? You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? I saw, hey, you know what, this dude tripped out. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna go rock with granddad. You know what I'm saying? For me, it was like, okay, you know what, walking past me, you know what I'm saying? That's not cool. But you know, I got Big J, you know what I'm saying, helping me out. You know what I'm saying? So I'm gonna rock with Big J. So my thing is this. You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of times, even if you've been in that situation, let's say you're a girl, you're a young lady, and you grew up and your dad wasn't around. Or he wasn't even around the way you would have liked him to be around. I don't understand like having a child and creating the same situation. You know what I mean? Like, you longed for your father. You know you longed for your father. You know you got something missing. You know what I mean? Why would you, if you and the father don't work out, and that father does want to spend time with that child, why would you do anything at all to get in the way of that?
Because that's built in your knowledge.
I
That's
get
built
it.
in your knowledge.
I
base
get
of
it,
what you
but
know now.
I get it. But you, as a parent, your responsibility. It's not even what you. It's not even like, you know what I mean, what I want to do. When you talk about parenting, you talking about your responsibility. You brought a life into this world. You need to do whatever it takes to make to make this child the most productive member of society as you will allow.
But if she feels she's doing that and not doing what you want her to do.
But you didn't hear what I said. But you know you've longed for your parents.
Right. But I'm saying, if I'm the girl and I feel like I am doing my best, even though I'm cutting this man out, emotionally,
and that's the thing.
Emotionally, she's coming from that standpoint.
I get it.
Exactly.
But that don't make it right.
No, we're not saying this right. Nobody believes this right.
He was like, no, somebody does. They do. No, they do.
I mean, of course, we all think we're right when we're doing something.
Exactly.
But I'll say this, man, from a whole different standpoint. I had this conversation with several people within the last few weeks.
Oh man, if you in that situation, you have it more than you would like to.
Check this out. This is a different way of looking at it. Spiritually, there's a spirit called the spirit of division that was sent systematically. We look at it, y'all know it from government, because in the same way we got welfare. I was just telling a young lady this morning who I was meeting with her. She recently got off welfare. I was saying that the same way that they have welfare for us is not the same way they have it for white people. Let me explain. So the spirit of division, which is systematically set up for the black families to stay divided. Let me show you how the spirit of division works. The spirit of division gets in the governmental positions. They make laws that push the spiritual agenda of separating black families. So welfare, for us, the man cannot be in the house.
Right.
Right?
That's what it was put there for.
But they got farmers who have the same welfare system that says the husband has to be there.
But that's what I'm saying. If you think back to when that happened,
that's been years. Yeah,
Right.
so that's been 2 years ago.
And here's
Hold on. Let him finish his point. Hold on.
I'm agreeing. It's just that systematic. Like shit.
I ain't finished.
Let him finish.
I just want to interject. You're right. And here's what do you have to have to be a farmer? You got to have land. We didn't have land.
Hold on. Let him finish. Hold on.
That ain't even the point I'm making.
Right.
The point is systematically to get us to get us to think. So the woman now believes that I need this man out of here, or he got to get out while they come. I even have Section 8 tenants who, when the Section 8 people come, you know what I'm saying, they be like, my boyfriend can't be here. I'm like, I don't care. If that's the law, if that's the law, I mean, that's the law. So they get us to thinking. They have females that think and raising them. You seeing the little kids saying, "Oh, mommy kicked daddy out. I don't need no man either." So they grow up believing they don't need a man. So to get to your point, Irvin, to get to your point, that's the answer to how could a woman who's been through all of this still grow up, have a child with somebody that doesn't work out, and now she feels like cutting this guy off, because that mentality has been bred over years of generations, Now we're not saying that's not an excuse.
Okay,
they're wrong. Look, we all say that.
I can sleep at night.
We all can hold hands and say they dead wrong.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
As long as that's what we feel at this table, I go sleep at night.
What else comes out of that?
Because I'd have been back tomorrow.
You got broken families. You got broken households.
Right.
Terrell, open up.
Lesbianism at a whole nother level. Because these women has took it so far to say they don't need a man, that I can get a woman and I can do what a man does.
Wrong.
Can you say bullshit?
That's some bullshit.
My man Terrell don't curse no more.
So spiritually, all this stuff, from a spiritual aspect, man, makes sense. But from a natural aspect, if you're just looking at it like they bogus, it stems from somewhere.
I get it. I understand what you're saying. This is what I'll say. As a PSA, I agree with what you're saying. I understand. I appreciate you for explaining that to me. You know what I'm saying? Because everything you said made a lot of sense. You know what I'm saying? And I can understand where you're coming from.
And we're not making an excuse. It's
not
an
excuse.
excuse.
Not an excuse. Yeah. But this is just a PSA. You know what I'm saying? If you out there, you listening to this situation, this deal, these brothers come together speaking, and you got a situation where a father's trying to spend time with his kid, and you're blocking it. You know what I mean? Understand this: kids are smarter than what you think they are.
Oh, yeah.
Kids are smarter than what you think they are. If you feel like the person that you had this child with is on bullshit, your child will discern that. Your child will discern that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, at some point.
You cannot protect your child from everything. But if you feel like if he's a positive influence, just go and get out the way.
I think you should get out of the way either way, because whether he's negative or positive, I understand as a parent you're trying to protect.
I just said that.
Yeah,
I said the same thing. Like,
it.
just get out the way either way, because at the end of the day, every mistake that you make, you gonna have to answer for.
Yeah.
So if you a mother, you blocking this dad, and he's a good dad, you know what I'm saying, and everything, and if in a minute, you don't know what age is gonna come at, but you gonna have to answer some questions that you're gonna feel really uncomfortable with. And if he ain't crap, if he ain't shit, and he just, you know what I'm saying, he around, your child gonna feel that, and he got to answer that question. And just my little humble advice: when it's time to answer them questions, if it's about the mother and you the father, get out the way. Let her answer those questions. Yeah. If you the dad and it's about the mother, if you get out the way and let her answer them questions.
I'll give a PSA to wrap this up real quick, because I know where that stemmed from. Let me, I got to give my own opinion. This ain't got nothing to do with what we're talking about. Actually, it does. Right. Ayanla,
oh boy,
said something that reference, that reference, the mother. What was the quote?
Oh man,
it was something like,
give us something close to it, even if it's not the quote. Give us something close to it.
It was something like the woman, the mother determines who the man is. Like something about that. So I just want to say this: Ayanla ain't fixed nobody's life ever, and
at all.
You can put that on. I'm gonna tell you.
At all. I'm not listening to
Jesus fixes lives.
Preacher.
Ayanla is not a life fixer, because she always have follow-ups and they're still broken. Right. So there's no such thing. I hate the word expert. You're not an expert, because everybody is. I love that word. I created that word. Well, let's go. I'm a solution. Yeah. No, you know what I mean? Right. Yeah. So it's like this. I just don't like, and I don't understand people calling themselves experts. Everybody. Life is different.
Correct.
You cannot have a cookie cutter approach. That's what the courts
you haven't lived everyone's life. You have not.
The courts had to do that.
Right. I mean, and let me tell you why. Let me tell you why. Let me tell you why. They looked at us and said, "You know what? They so stupid. All they can do is work it out. So we gonna charge them to work it out for them."
But it's so many of us coming in there,
right? And it's thousands because we can't get it together. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. If we can get past our emotions, y'all know me and Jemana, man. We used to, you know what I'm saying, almost come to blows, you know what I'm saying, for years. We was in court, man, for, I say 02 to, I don't know, man, or something like 10.
Long enough, long time.
Yeah, so all those years, we're paying money to courts. Right. Add it up if you want to. And make me sad when you give me the figure.
I can't find the quote.
I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to tell you something about that, I'm cool with my baby mom's dad. You know what I'm saying? And I'm gonna tell you something he told me. He was like, y'all can keep fighting down the court. You know what I'm saying? And you have to assert, you know what I'm saying? I'm not saying don't fight for your kid. You gotta if you're a dad, unfortunately if you're a dad, if you're a mom, all you gotta do is have a baby. If you're a dad, you gotta fight for the right to take care of your own son, which is ridiculous. But invite me back for another podcast for that. Right. But he said this to me over a glass of whiskey. You know what I'm saying? At his house. You know what I mean? He said, like, y'all, I really wish y'all could really sit down and figure it out as adults. Because at the end of the day, you spending your hard-earned American money, she spending her hard-earned American money, and the lawyer's driving off in Benzes.
That's the truth.
That's the fact.
We're banging the gavel on that, so we're going to move on.
That's the fact.
We're going to move on.
I literally took a sip and was like, you know what? It's time for me to go home.
Church.
So we're going to move on. Thank you for listening to part 1 of The Man Cave. I had a lot of fun doing this episode, so I'll probably drop part 2 like right after the Christmas holiday. Give you guys something to chew on right after that. But in the meantime, if you could give me your feedback on the social media page or in the review section of iTunes or Stitcher where you listen to the podcast, that'd be great. It helps us get better, and it definitely, I love to read the reviews of the people who are listening. So if you find the time, drop some comments. Let's hear what you got to say. I appreciate you again. See you part 2.